September 17th, 1989. It's week 2 of a brand new NFL season, and we head up to Lambeau Field in Wisconsin for this NFC battle between the New Orleans Saints and the Green Bay Packers. After the Saints started out the season with a 28-0 thrashing against the Dallas Cowboys, if they could win this game against a Packers team that didn't have a lot of expectations on paper entering that 1989 season, then they'd position themselves very nicely early on. A 2-0 start would be massive for the Saints, considering the fact that the previous year, in 1988, of the 7 teams to start the year off 2-0, all 7 of them ended up making it to the playoffs. Alas, that did not happen, as the Saints lost this game 35-34 in what many consider to be one of the best games of the entire 1989 season. This was the first time all year that we got to see Don Majkowski work his magic that would transpire throughout all of 1989, and we got to see the Magic Man lead a game-winning fourth-quarter drive in somewhat controversial fashion, leading an 80-yard drive for the game-winning touchdown with under 2 minutes to go. Despite the Saints having a 21-0 lead at one point and a 24-7 lead at the halftime break, and looking like they were in control of this one, the Packers stormed back to give New Orleans its first loss of the season in a game that still lives on in Packer history more than 35 years later. However, while this game right here might be notable for a bunch of reasons, from Don Majkowski's comeback and game-winning drive to the controversial completion on 4th down that, if ruled the other way, would have given the Saints the win, there's another reason why this game deserves to be remembered all these years later that you might have forgotten about or might not know about. And that is the fact that head coach Jim Mora and general manager Jim Finks had some of the dumbest roster management that you're ever going to see in your life. Seriously. I don't know what they were thinking with this, and I don't know if Finks was too preoccupied with the incredibly lengthy and dysfunctional battle to become the commissioner of the NFL that he couldn't focus on his primary job. Almost like how someone running for president just completely forgets on the campaign trail that they're a senator and they leave their state neglected. But whatever it was ridiculously stupid and deserves a deep dive all these years later. Because during this game right here in 1989, a wide receiver made his debut with the Saints that put up, quite possibly, the worst stat line by any receiver in NFL history among guys with at least 1 catch. This receiver had no business playing receiver, and this receiver had no business being on the field. And the receiver in question was a defensive back? Yeah, this deserves a second look. Because this is the story behind Toi Cook, otherwise known as the worst receiver in the history of the New Orleans Saints, through no fault of his own, and some of the dumbest roster management that you're ever going to see. Make sure you hit that like button down below, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we post on the channel, because we post every single day on here about the weird and the wacky history of the NFL with stories like this one that you may not have heard of before. So if you like that sort of stuff, then this is definitely the place for you. Thanks in advance for liking and subscribing, and for helping us grow this community. And with that in mind, let's talk about the time that Toi Cook was not cooking. Before I talk about the incident in question and just how stupid it was, we need some context to understand who this man right here, Toi Cook, was. Because as you can probably tell, this man is not a wide receiver. Cook was drafted by the New Orleans Saints in the 8th round of the 1987 NFL Draft, and turned out to have a very solid and very productive career in the league, being one of just 2 players, alongside Kevin Gogan, to play more than 10 years in the NFL after being taken that year in the 8th round. Cook played for the Saints until 1993, before spending 2 seasons with the San Francisco 49ers, even recording an interception for the Niners at Super Bowl 29, and spending his final 2 seasons with the expansion Carolina Panthers. The man just loved the NFC West. And in 1992, as a member of the Saints, he started 15 games in that secondary that finished the year with the #1 pass defense in football. The Saints went 12-4 that season, and Cook was a big reason why, as he led the team with 6 interceptions, which was double what anyone else had on the team, and was 7th in the NFL. Obviously, the man could play, and is still a fan favorite in New Orleans to this day. If you're starting games with one of the greatest teams in NFL history and making an interception in the Super Bowl, you're doing something right. And he might have been able to play longer if not for a torn rotator cuff after winning the Super Bowl. So let's get that out of the way right now. The man I'm talking about throughout this video was a heck of a cornerback, which raises the obvious question: wide receiver? Why wide receiver? Was this a situation like Travis Hunter or Deion Sanders, where they thought they could play both ways and wanted to try it out? Well, no, not at all actually. You see, there are some guys that know how to play both ways in a limited capacity, I suppose. Maybe a defensive back played some wide receiver in high school, or played both ways in Pee Wee football. Almost like how, even if a kicker never punted the ball in the NFL or in college, he did a little bit of punting in high school and is familiar with how it works and can apply some sort of muscle memory to doing it at an adequate level if need be. Toi Cook was not one of those guys. Toi Cook had, quite literally, never played wide receiver before. Never played it in the NFL, never played it during his time at Stanford, never played it in high school, never played it in middle school or Pee Wee or anything else. The man, quite literally, had no idea how to play the position. He knew how to guard receivers, but didn't know how to be a receiver. Said Cook, "The only thing I ever caught was in center field," referring to the fact that Cook played 2 sports in college and played for Stanford's baseball team for 4 seasons, including 1987, when he led the Cardinals to the College World Series and won the championship after hitting .318 with 10 home runs, 59 RBI, and an OPS hovering around 900. Cook could do a lot of things. He could play cornerback, he could play baseball, he could count by 2s and tie his shoes, but he could not play wide receiver. However, the Saints had a bit of a problem. Entering their game against the Packers, they had 5 receivers on their team. You're looking at their roster right now. Those 5 guys were number 80, Brett Perriman, number 84, Eric Martin, number 87, Lonzel Hill, number 88, Floyd Turner, and number 89, Derek Shepard. Not a bad unit on paper by any means. Perriman was a second-round pick from 1988 with a lot of potential, and would eventually become a very good receiver in Detroit in the 1990s. Martin was a Pro Bowler the year before in 1988, with over 1,000 yards receiving. Hill was a former second-round pick who finished the 1988 season inside the top 10 of the entire NFL in receiving touchdowns. There were guys on this team is what I'm getting at here. But, as you might have been able to guess, even the best laid plans of mice and men go awry. And the Saints dealt with the injury bug. Not a fun bug to deal with. On September 1st, during the team's final preseason game, a 26-21 loss to Washington, Brett Perriman sprained his knee. This forced the second-year man to miss the season opener against Dallas, and led him to be ruled out fairly quickly in the build-up to the Week 2 game against Green Bay. Now, the Saints were down to 4 wideouts, which is still completely doable. Teams played with 4 wideouts all the time, especially back then. You just can't afford to have anyone else get hurt. Sure enough, during Week 1 against the Cowboys, Eric Martin left the game after picking up 5 catches for 46 yards. And the reason why he left was due to an ankle injury, with the injury being severe enough that all week he was listed on the injury report as doubtful in the build-up to the Packer game. So I just want you to keep that in mind throughout all of this when it comes to the man you've been watching this entire time in Toi Cook. This is not like I'm blaming the Saints for not having a backup kicker when their starting kicker, who is perfectly healthy, pulls something during pregame warmups, and it's obviously not foreseeable. The Saints already ruled Perriman out, and Martin was doubtful, with Derek Shepard being questionable, just to add insult to injury. The Saints, as things stood, had 2.5 healthy receivers on the team. The prequel to the hit sitcom 2.5 Men was the Saints receiving unit early on during the 1989 season. You would think, after Martin being doubtful and Perriman getting hurt, and the team being down to, in the best case scenario, 3 guys, that the Saints would sign another receiver. Sign another guy, a 4th guy, who knows the playbook that you cut in the preseason during the final cuts, and go from there. It wouldn't have been that hard. You just need an extra body. The Saints had 7 linebackers on the team going into the Packer game, and you don't need to carry 7 linebackers. I think having a 4th receiver, or a 3rd receiver if Shepard couldn't go, is more important than having 7 linebackers. Alas, the Saints did not do that, because for some inexplicable reason, their grand plan was to not cut anyone, and was to have the man who'd been watching this entire time, Toi Cook, be used as a wideout in certain packages. Again, he was a very good cornerback, and you cannot knock his ability on defense whatsoever. But the man had never played wide receiver before in his life. This is like Aaron Boone asking Jazz Chisholm Jr. in a close game due to an influx of injuries in the Yankee bullpen to pitch. Although I wouldn't put it past Boone to do something stupid with how he's managed the Yankees this season, but I digress. His first time ever playing receiver at any level, and it was going to be in an actual, honest-to-God NFL game on the very first drive. The man who was known for covering receivers his entire life was now going to be playing receiver. Want to see how it went?
A crucial 3rd and 9 situation for the New Orleans Saints, something they're unfamiliar with. 6 defensive backs in for the Packers. 4 wideouts in for the Saints. Hebert out of the shotgun. Across the middle. In the hands and out of Toi Cook. And it looks like the Saints get a lucky break, recovering near the 4th.
Yeah, an absolute disaster. I think in today's NFL, this gets overturned to an incomplete pass, as I don't think Cook took 2 steps and made a football move. But either way, either he dropped a pass that would have resulted in a first down by today's rules, or by 1989 rules, he fumbled the ball in his very first touch and gave possession back to the Packers before Tiger Green decided to be stupid for some reason and get up instead of just staying down, leading to him fumbling and giving the ball back to the Saints, allowing the Saints to get a second chance and drive down the field for the opening points of the game for a 7-0 lead. In a spot like that, just stay down 9 out of 10 times, that is the right play. I can't exactly blame Cook on this one, because the man had literally never played receiver before, and had no idea how to. It's like if you call me asking me to fix your pipes under your sink, and I fail, because you can't blame me for doing that, because I'm not a handyman, and have no idea how to do any of that stuff. Unsurprisingly, Cook did not play receiver for the rest of the game, meaning that the Saints used just 3 guys the rest of the way, and he never played receiver again in the NFL. This was his one and only snap at wideout, and what a snap it was. His final stat line in the NFL as a defensive back, 20 interceptions and 2 pick sixes, not counting his pick at the Super Bowl. His final stat line in the NFL as a wide receiver, 1 catch for 8 yards and 1 lost fumble, fumbling on 100% of his catches. One of these felt way more natural than the other. This problem easily could have been avoided if the Saints just signed another wideout and cut one of their 7 linebackers, seeing as Martin was obviously going to miss the game and Perriman was obviously going to miss the game. When something highly foreseeable happens and you're not ready for it, that is entirely on you, and you'll get disastrous moments like this one that easily could have been avoided, but were not. Much like I criticized the Miami Dolphins if they had Minkah Fitzpatrick playing wide receiver because everyone else was listed as out, and they took 0 steps whatsoever to replacing those injured wideouts, I have to criticize the Saints here. I don't know what they were thinking, and genuinely, I think their general manager was preoccupied with other stuff because of that well-documented power struggle to become the commissioner, succeeding Pete Rozelle. but the end result was this: a one-snap disaster and a losing effort that was never replicated again. Toi Cook, amazing defensive back. Toi Cook, atrocious wide receiver. Because on this September day in 1989, the Saints really needed another receiver to go marching in. Check out our live streaming schedule for the next few days. We're live every single day on this channel, whether we're covering a sporting event or playing GeoGuessr or just taking your requests. So make sure you like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single time that we go live and so that you can join this community. Also, thanks to all our members and our Patreon supporters who get exclusive perks like their name at the end of each video, members-only Q&A streams, and cool emojis to use on videos and during streams. See how you can join this community and become a member or a Patreon member by clicking the link in the description below.